Hi everyone, autumn's well underway now, so I need to start bringing in my plants for the winter. Obviously the days are getting shorter now, the nights are getting colder, so this week's video I'll be showing you how I do that, how I pot on my plants, bring them inside, where do I put them, and I'll also give a tour around my garden after I've brought my plants inside for the winter. So I have started bringing in some of my most tender plants inside, and these are cordline fruticosa hybrids, and these don't like temperatures much lower than 10 degrees or 50 Fahrenheit. So I've moved these into my conservatory about a week or two ago, and I'll shortly move them into my living room where they'll have more heat for the winter. So looking around the conservatory, it looks like I've got quite a bit of room at the moment. It will soon fill up. There's quite a lot of room left on the floor, and I will have a rejiggle of what's in here at the moment. So the Begonia palms here, I'll just move on the other side of the glass, just on the other side of the door in my living room, because I don't like low temperatures. It gets down to about 2 or 3 degrees in my conservatory. It's not heated. This is my new purchase of Folia geniculata, which has got a gorgeous red stem, and I'll put that in my utility room, which gets to down to about 7 degrees. My caladiums, I'll move those into my living room too. You can see they're looking a bit untidy now. They're starting to try and rest. Obviously I'll pick over the dead leaves and move them inside, but they're still, some of them are looking very decorative even still now. So you can see the gorgeous coloration. And yeah, I'll have a bit of a tidy up on the windowsill just to make sure I've got plenty of room in here. And obviously you can see how the garden looks outside at the moment. Always seems such a shame to dismantle it and bring it in for the winter, but must do it now. We're well into the middle of October, approaching late October now, so frosts begin to become a real threat. You can see here, there's quite a lot to bring in. Luckily I have my utility room as well. So looking back round, you can see my tiki bar is completely empty for the winter now. I've emptied all the stuff out, inside and out, and obviously I'll dress that back up in sort of the end of April, beginning of May. And you can see there's a few tender plants outside, such as a cheese plant, Monstera deliciosa, to bring in, and some other bits and pieces too. Okay, so let's get cracking. So for those of you who've never watched my videos before, here's my small utility room. It's not individually heated, but it gets heat from the house obviously during the winter, so the temperature goes down to about 6 or 7 degrees centigrade, 43 to 45 Fahrenheit, and it means that I can put some shelving units in here to overwinter my plants on the shelving, and of course I can put them in this sort of area here, and I can also put them all on the floor along here too. So these beautiful Begonia Rex Fireworks, I like cool temperatures and shade, and you can see the stunning coloration and patterning of the foliage. Each plant that I bring in I like to pick over, so I like to take off all the dead leaves. So I'm looking for all of those, and I'm also looking for pests such as slugs and woodlice, and I just give them a good check over before I bring them into the house. This is obviously going to be a stunning addition to my living room over the winter months. So down towards the bottom of my garden I've got a mixture of house plants such as begonias, bromeliads, pileas, cordylines, tender ferns, and my including my staghorn here, dracaenas, more begonia, spider plants or chlorophytum, things like that. I'll be moving these in now inside my house and my living room and also my utility room. I do have a lot of tender plants in pots, so I'm going to start bringing those in first. Many of these are house plants, such as the Kentia Palm on the right and the cheese plant on the left. I also have things like Mandevilla, beautiful red flowered climber here. I mean, this is getting to the end of October now and it's still in full bloom, as you can see. Have some ensetes, aroids such as elephantseas, colocaceas and alocaceas, things like the bromeliads, and some other bits and pieces. So I'm going to make a start bringing these in now. So here there's a few tender plants which I need to bring in for the winter. First up is the one on the left here. This is Begonia Heracley Folia. Gorgeous begonia. I have quite a few different types now. Make excellent house plants in a shady spot, so that will adorn my living room area with the others that I've already brought in. Next is Schefflera, a very common house plant or office plant. Obviously evergreen leaves, variegated, and it's a fantastic addition to an exotic garden in the summertime. Really adds that exotica and good leaf shape in contrast to other things. So I will be lifting that shortly. This bromeliad or Amazonian bird nest, Nidularium innocentiae. You can see here the gorgeous bird nest like inflorescence with those flower buds looking like birds' eggs. So that I'll bring in. And next to that is Sanchezia Nobleus, a bit slug eaten at this time of year. Now we've had heavy rains, so I will check that thoroughly for slugs. But again, excellent house plant, so I'll put that in my living room. The Schefflera and the Nidularium I've just showed you, those will go into my unheated conservatory, so that'll be fine there. And next to here, this one is a canna, of course, so I could either mulch this or lift it up. All of these plants obviously are just pot into a pot with a bit of compost, but the pots will just be just a little bit bigger than the root ball. I don't want to encourage growth at this time of the year, of course. I just need them to just be ticking over inside. So literally a pot just enough to take the root ball. So let's go. So I've potted these plants up, the Bromeliad, Nidularium innocentiae. I did tip this upside down. Once I dug it up out of the ground, I tipped it upside down to drain out all of the rainwater, a lot of the stagnant water. That's really important with bromeliads for the winter, to make sure they don't rot. I keep them really dry in the leaves, so I don't water the leaves at all. I've potted on the Sanchezia Nobleus, so I've checked them for slugs, picked the slugs off, and of course inside now they will grow slowly some nice new leaves. I've put them in pots just big enough to take the root ball with just a tiny bit of compost, and I've done the same with the Begonia Heracley Folia. I've also done the same with the Schefflera. So here's the Schefflera taken out of the ground, put it in a big pot but only just big enough for the root ball. So you can see here the roots are really filling it up. I'm just going to put a little bit of compost on the top of these, obviously, to stop the top roots from drying out. I've put a little bit of compost underneath the root ball too, and this I'll move inside my unheated conservatory. So now I've moved in all of my pots, it's time to start moving in stuff that's planted out in the ground. So these huge ensetes, so like this enset or Ensete Montbelliardii, is really impressive now. It's about 9 feet tall, about 2.7 metres, but I really need to get this in now because they don't tolerate frost. I'll remove most of the leaves and I'll tip it upside down on its side because water collects in the petioles or the leaf stalks where they join the trunk or the stem, and you can see just down in here how much water is actually in there. So you can see the water all collecting in the bottom, and if you don't drain all of that out, you can imagine it will rot during the cold in the winter time. So some people leave them lying on the sides for about a week to drain that out. I just do it for a few hours and just keep checking, and then pot it into very dry compost into a pot just big enough to take the root ball. I'm going to cut all of these leaves off, these lower ones. As you can see, I've cut off all of those leaves just to make it more manageable really, so that it's easier to lift, and it will also take up less space inside my utility room. So it doesn't look quite as impressive as it did earlier, just a few minutes ago, but this top leaf is still around 8-9 feet in height, so I might have to take that off as well. Okay, so I've lifted the Ensete Montbelliardii. I've cut off that final leaf, or halved it, just to make it more manageable. I've trimmed off the lower leaves back to the plate to get rid of as much water as possible. So obviously I'll compost all these bits and pieces afterwards, and I'm just going to tip it on its side now to drain all of that water out that's collected inside there. So here goes. So there's a lot of water in there obviously. I'll leave that on its side for a bit while I prepare the others. So I'm going to use the same technique for this Ensete Morellii, which still looks absolutely stunning. So it's so tempting to just leave it out for the winter, but it will die 100% in this area where we do get quite a lot of frost, so I do have to lift it. And I will also lift my Musa Helen's hybrid in the same way. The Musa Basju I will leave outside, but I will protect it as I did in last year's video, last October, November time, so do look out for that. So here's the Ensete Morellii. I've dug this up and turned this up on its side. A lot smaller, compact growth compared to the Montbelliardii next to that. People are often surprised how shallow the root ball is, so how small the root ball is for the size of the plant. It's only about one spit or one depth of the fork, the garden fork, so you know, not big at all. And like I say, I just use pots just big enough to take the root ball. So I'm removing the NZT Morellii. I've been able to get close to the base of my Yucca Gigantia, a common houseplant or office plant, and you can see the flared base on it, but you can see all the new growth here that it's done during the summertime, lower down. So although not considered hardy, this has been proven to be quite tough over the last few years. I've kept this outside for the last few winters, and although it's got some dead leaves there from the winter past, you can see all the new growth it's put on the top. And this again is approaching 3 meters tall, so it's too big to move inside. I could cut it down, but I'm loath to do that really, and I could propagate some new plants from these shoots, of course, by taking them off, removing the lower leaves and potting them up in some gritty compost. So whilst lifting a lot of these bananas, these insetties, I've been looking at these beautiful Dahlia, Bishop of Llandaff, and other daisies that are in flower still at the moment, such as the other dahlia that I have here, Canora's Sunset. Obviously I'll leave these outside for the winter like I have done the last few years. I haven't even mulched them, they've come back every year, so it's just obviously nice to have a bit of colour in the late autumn into the winter. The rather choice Sonchus palmensis, which has been grown from Mike Clifford's seed, has been in flower for the past month or two. So this is a tree sow thistle or tree dandelion, Sonchus palmensis. You see those dandelion type flowers, and it's the first time I've got a Sonchus in flower before. It will continue to get taller. It can grow up to about 2 to 3 meters in height. This is about just under a metre or so, and I will bring that in for the winter because although they can tolerate light frosts, I don't want to risk it and I don't want to lose it. Okay, so my conservatory is well chock-a-block full of plants now. So there's this gorgeous Musamanii, lots of Bromeliads, so my Washingtonian Palm, yeah, more Bromeliads. Those of you who watch my videos will know I'm absolutely obsessed with those. My Schefflera, Vasconcelia pubescens, or the so-called hardy pawpaw. Those are my tallest plants that I have to move in. That's easily 9 foot without cutting it down, or 2.7 metres. Colocasia esculenta fontanesii, Agave attenuata, my Colocaceus, my Strelitzia regina, Cycas revoluta, and many more Bromeliads here as well. So looking outside, it looks a bit different to when I started my video earlier. You can see, although there's still plenty of interest outside, you can see the gorgeous Russ, of course, and Cersei's Forest Pansy towards the bottom, now that it's got its gorgeous autumn colour. And of course my palms I'll leave outside for the winter, like I did last year. So let's head outside onto the decking, and as you can see, it's looking a little bit stark compared to earlier on. I've got a few more things to move in, but last year I did keep my pelargoniums outside and they came through the winter no problem at all. So the cordyline pink passion is fairly hardy. I'll bring that in for the worst of the cold. The gorgeous Trichelospermum jasminoides, of course, is completely hardy, and look at that fantastic winter colour that you get when grown in a pot. Absolutely stunning. But yeah, so it's looking quite bare. I've got my Brahia armata palm and also my Butea odorata, but the rest of the decking area is pretty bare, and I don't really mind that for the winter. A lot of people say, well, don't you like your garden in the winter time? Well, of course I work full time, and it doesn't get light till 8 AM when I'm at work, and it can get dark as early as 3:30 in December, so I'm at work most of the time. So looking down here, still got my Musa badge due, which I'll wrap up perhaps next week or so. See the areas where my Enseti Montebelliardi was. Just look back up towards the decking area here. Of course the dahlias I'll leave out like I do every year, and I'll carry on flowering until the first frost, which is great, and great for the last remaining insects around before the winter comes. So there was my Enseti Morellii and my Musa Helens hybrid, which are obviously tucked inside for the winter now. The acacia and the eucalyptus, of course, are evergreen and now provide winter interest. The Euonymus alatus compactus has been stunning, but obviously most of the autumn colours gone now. Salvia involucrata, again I find that this completely hardy. I'll leave this outside for the winter, it dies down to the ground, but the bees were enjoying this just the other day, so of course I'll leave that. And the stunning rust tiger eyes, the Cersei's forest pansy, and the panicum northwind in front of that will soon go orange. It's just starting to turn, but look at that Cersei's forest pansy, absolutely gorgeous, completely hardy tree, looks gorgeous when the sun lights it up, but equally with a bit of rain as now, it also brings out the colouring. The rust tiger eyes, it will just get better over the next few days. Again, completely hardy. It's difficult to pick up the true colours actually on camera, but I think you can see some of them. And of course my Trachycarpus palm, which I got planted last Easter, is hardy of course, so I'll leave that out. And then my Tetrapanics Paparufa Rex has actually got flower buds on for the first time, which is really cool. So those are obviously in the Heracley family, the ivy family or Fatsia family, so the flowers do look a bit like Fatsia flowers. And I do have a small Fatsia japonica there. And the cordyline red star I'll keep outside unless it gets desperately cold. If it does, then I can just tuck it in there in my shed just for the winter. And finally my Sarracenias, although looking a bit rough, I will keep those outside for the winter. They're very, very hardy. So yeah, that's a brief tour how the garden looks end of October. I'm sure you'll agree there's still plenty of interest even though I've brought in my tender stuff. So my most tender plants I bring inside my house into my living room and dining room area, and of course it means I can enjoy the exotic colourful foliage at home during the winter months. So you can see I've got a range of Bromeliads and my cordyline fruticosa. I've put this here so that they'll get some winter light from my conservatory windows. There's also a variegated pineapple there on the left. And I have some Begonia Rex and Sanchezia, Dracena, Cryptanthus, and more cordyline fruticosa hybrids there. Tried Scantia pallida purple heart, although that can tolerate colder temperatures. I do have some in my conservatory and utility, but I just love that coloration with the cordyline there. And I also have some more begonias here, so the Begonia Fireworks that you saw earlier, the Begonia here with the long eyelash like appendages on the foliage, that's called size murray. Some more Begonia Rex and Hyperwestes Philostachia, and the Begonia Masoniorum. Begonia Little Brother Montgomery, and also have arrowroot there, Maranta arundinacea, and what was Curculigo there as well. My Begonia Heracley Folia, and the Pilea Moon Valley, got gorgeous foliage. And then my spider plant, Chlorophytum and Dracaena marginata, and those look great with my 40-year-old Christmas cacti. So now I'm in my utility room. It's chock-a-block full of plants, of course. So I've got the Sanchezia Palmiensis here. Stunning flowers, as you can see. My Brilliantasia, which is like a giant salvia type plant here, so I'll keep that fairly on the dry side. The Cestrum nocturnum with highly scented exotic flowers that are nocturnal. They open at night, or in this case today on a cloudy day. And then I have some banana, so at the back the plain green leaved Ensete ventricosum, and the Musa Arunchalensis, I think this one is. Let's have a look. Yep, Arunchalensis. And then looking the other way, it's looking rather full compared to the beginning of the video. So absolutely chock-a-block full. So you can see my shelving unit with loads of stuff crammed in. Luckily most of this won't need much water during the winter time, so I don't have to wander through there too often, although I can move the odd one along here just so I can step through, but I certainly make the most of my space. So you can see my Cyaphias, my Monstera deliciosa, the Kentia Palm at the back, the Begonia luxurians, Mandevilla, and other bits and pieces, my ferns, the Musa Arunchalensis, Musa Helen's hybrid, which I only grew from seed last year, I think it was, which is absolutely incredible. Ensete Montbelliardii and Ensete Morellii. So obviously it was 8-9 feet tall, 2.7 metres. Now it's shorter than me, so under 2 metres. It's under, what I would say, 1.6 metres, 1.7, about those top leaves. Folia geniculata, and my Hibiscus rosa sinensis cultivars, which are trying their best to carry on flowering, so they'll flower for another few weeks. And then my irisines, which I can take cuttings from. So this is an amazing colour. This is Irisine Herbstii Oreo reticulata, with those variegated yellow leaves and the neon pink stems. And another Irisine Herbstii there as well. So thanks for watching everyone, and if you like what you see, please subscribe to my channel, and see you soon. Bye.